following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lawrence. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Heckma Harrison, Rob Phillips, and Kyle Yeomans.
It is a Talkin Cowboys Tuesday here from the Star in Frisco. Welcome in, everybody. It's another off-season edition as it is May 24th, 2022. OTAs are officially underway, and we will break it down for you. We haven't gotten to see a whole lot. Well, we have heard some things, and we, of course, have news and notes. We're going to talk about some OTA stuff. We're going to take your questions from Twitter, by the way. You can go tweet at me at Kyle_Yeomans. Get your questions out there. We'll answer those coming up in the second segment. As always, Chris Beam running the show in the back. Heckma Harrison, Isaiah Stanback, Rob Phillips. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good. Swell.
Feel a little bit better now that football's kind of back in the air here?
Oh, heck yeah.
A little bit.
Can't wait to hear some pads. Here in a little while, a couple months.
Pads clicking.
Clicking and
pads
clacking.
popping. Almost there.
When does pads get on? When do they get on?
A few days into camp. Real training camp.
Yeah, so not just yet. But
Not
we
just
got
yet.
Got a little bit of ways.
Not too far away.
Under 7 weeks.
Is it really?
Actually, I think it's 6 weeks from today.
Stop
I believe. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Is training camp.
We're gonna blink,
Is
man.
when they leave I think it's 6 weeks from today. I may be wrong. Let me double check.
Yeah.
that.
Right, in my head, it was like 2.5 months away.
No, it's not that far away.
We got June, July. Oh,
Have you checked your inbox yet? Because it's probably got a couple of emails about it. It says training camp dates. It has this and that.
You got to remember, I'm just a contract guy, Kyle.
Stop
You know
it.
what I'm
You
saying?
were just as important
you see
as
how he
anybody.
act like, you see how they divided the room, right? You know what I'm saying? Heck.
It's all good.
we were all at practice.
It's all good.
We were all at rookie
Been here, done
minicamp. We all enjoyed rookie minicamp.
We'll
I
all
definitely
be
was
out
walking
there
next to Rob
tomorrow.
P. I was like, wherever Rob P. go, I'm going. I'm going to hold you inside of your pocket.
Who got drafted here? Who played here? And who's just a guy?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I don't buy that.
So that's my role. That's what I do. I connect myself. I carry something.
Yeah.
A microphone. Cam, y'all need me to carry something?
Absolutely.
I'm on my way.
Absolutely.
Can I curl some
for
cords?
sure. I mean, that's what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
Yep. Got to do what you got to do. Unless you're Isaiah, then you just
Nah,
show
they
up
don't know
and-
me around here.
VIP
They stop me for
status
credentials every
immediately.
corner I go.
We did the math back here. It's 9 weeks and 3 days.
Hey.
From now?
Yes.
2.5 months.
Is when
I was
we
almost
leave
right.
to go
I was almost right.
That's when I start counting how many weekends I have left at home. Thanks, Chris. Now I know. Nine weekends left.
I don't know where I got that number then.
There's an anxiety that I didn't need. Did you just? I was thinking like vacation
Bro.
days.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. In my head, I'm like 2.5 months. And Kyle said 6 weeks. I'm like,
I don't know. I don't know where I got that number. Maybe
Oh,
I'm
no, you
not
scared me.
That means this show's starting to wind down a little bit here.
Yeah,
that
we
means
get a
we've
little-
got like 4 shows left, and then it's 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Pretty much.
You're taking us to Cancun? That's
yeah,
what I
thanks,
just-
Rob P.
We
Appreciate
all
it.
can go.
We're going to Rob P. Island?
Let's do that.
Let's
Deal.
go.
Yeah, Chris, you come too.
All right.
Let's
Sounds
make
good.
it a 5-man trip. Let's
Hey,
go.
Snoop,
Just
Snoop.
charge it to the card, the company
green
card.
hat.
You're your
Let's
green
go.
hat. Let's go.
All right, Rob, what's been going on? News and notes around Cowboys Nation this past week. Didn't have you last week. Glad you're back. And anything specific going on?
OTAs getting underway. We just mentioned that. So no pads, but finally some 11-on-11 we'll get to see over the next few weeks. And I think they're only having 8 of these instead of 9. I think Mike McCarthy prefers to, after Memorial Day weekend, just have 2 that week, then 3, and then minicamp. And then it's time to break camp and get ready for Oxnard. So we'll see a little bit of a continuation of what we saw in rookie camp. We'll see how the rookies adjust to the veterans. And it'll be nice to see Dak Prescott, I assume, doing all the things. Like last year, he was anytime there was a pass rush, they had him in bubble wrap. So coming off the injury, so it's interesting how, like, as we dive into this, it's shifted a little bit. Like last year was this blank slate for the defense. We had no idea really what to expect with Dan Quinn coming in. Now we have a picture of it, and it's flipped. Like offensively, there's a lot for them to kind of figure out. and change the dynamics around Dak Prescott this year. So that's something to watch for as we get going here.
It's kind of been those dynamics that have been shifting through the draft process, through the guys that they brought in this offseason. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of eyes on guys like Dante Fowler Jr., James Washington, because of really the lack of additions from a free agent standpoint. There's a lot of pressure on those guys to come in and perform. But Heckma, when you're looking at the specifics of OTAs, you're not going to get to see a ton of these guys really at their full potential. But who do you expect to kind of fill that role early and maybe shine at the early parts of these practices?
Well, I think all of the veterans should shine because they've been here. They know the routine. For the rookies, they're going to be like a fish out of water just trying to figure out the pace of the NFL. So when you mention a name like Dante Fowler, these are guys that, coming into camp or coming into this season that, these were not the moves, obviously, that you were expecting. The front office is not going to make any hasty decisions. So I think for the veterans that are on this roster, seeing the guys like Dante Fowler, seeing Malik Hooker in his second season with the Dallas Cowboys and in this defense, what he's going to be able to do, just getting acclimated to this defense, so to speak. So, there's so many guys on this roster after this offseason that have to answer some big-time questions as far as their productivity. And those are camp isn't going to answer that. Only real game is going to answer some of these questions that we have about this team.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be like big any shining moments in OTAs, but one shining.
Going back to Arch.
I don't know how that.
God, I love that.
You're starting to turn into me, Heck. You see that right there? Ripping off. Kyle's like, damn it, no, not two Isaiahs.
Nah, please don't.
No,
I
don't know about shining moments, but I do. I'm looking forward to seeing if Dak and James Washington can get some chemistry. I think that's going to be a very important element going into this season, that those guys get in sync early, and then that can carry on and well into camp and obviously transition to the season. But I think that's going to be he's going to be a key ingredient to this offense's ability to move the ball this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing Dak healthy early, and then him working with James Washington, him adapting to this particular offense and finding his role.
Yeah, because you lose Cedric Wilson in that wide receiver room, and that's kind of the guy you want James Washington to become. Special teams impact, you want him to be that fourth receiver, maybe even better than that, and kind of be that reliable target from a receiving standpoint that's on the same page as Dak Prescott. If you go on DallasCowboys.com, over the last couple of weeks, Rob, Nick, Dave have all been putting together this problem spots series. It's actually really cool. You go in and it has specific spots that going into the offseason were quote-unquote problem spots and what they've done to either fill that or what they expect to do in order to fill that when the season comes around. I want to kind of talk about a couple of those problem spots. And Rob, I'll let you start since you were part of that series. Which one do you feel like was the biggest problem spot, and what have the Cowboys done to address that to this point?
That's a great question. We've got 6 of these, I think, and we're wrapping it up today with slot receivers. So pay attention to DallasCowboys.com for that. So we've got punt and kick returner. We've got swing tackle, center depth, slot receiver, kicker, and linebacker depth. That's a great question. I would say, man, I might go with swing tackle, honestly.
Okay.
Just because it's a backup position, but history says that's a starting position for at least 3 games. Because Tyron Smith is not – he's great when he plays. I mean, he played at a Pro Bowl level. The metrics showed that. But, I mean, he hadn't played a full season since 2015. So they have to be prepared to have a starting caliber guy at that position, at a major key position, protecting Dak Prescott's blind side. So I don't know if – I think they're happy with what they have in place there, but I don't know if they know who's going to fill that spot yet, because they have 3 young tackles who have not played a preseason game, much less a regular season game yet.
Makes sense.
And typically that's been a role where they go and they sign a vet to fill that spot, or at least compete for that spot. It's been Ty Nsekhe, it's been Cameron Irving, Cameron Fleming, and now it is Matt Waletzko in the 4th round, Josh Ball in the 4th round last year. Tyler Smith is a left side player right now, although I think we all feel like he's, a strong candidate, likely the starter at left guard if he doesn't lose that opportunity.
I almost broke out into a cold sweat realizing that we don't even have a kicker.
Well, I looked at that one and was like, well, yeah, we don't have a clue with that one either.
We don't. And the kicker that we have is undrafted, unproven. So that
Jonathan Garibay.
That gives you a little bit of pause. But when you put the quote out, the tweet out to all of us about what the rundown was going to be, obviously you go through all of this from DallasCowboys.com and looking through what we have, and I felt like it was the edge rusher position. When Randy Gregory signed with the Broncos, it was apparent that Cowboy Nation felt as though there was a hole in this defense the front office hadn't made the steps to try and fill that role. And you had enough names in free agency that came through that Stephen Jones was just staying put. He wasn't signing anybody. It didn't matter if it was an aging guy, a free agent, whatever. And so you saw the philosophy of what this front office was going to have going into the season. And I thought that what I'm trying to say is that the draft really they played their hand with the draft. With every pick, it was overanalyzed, scrutinized, and they added the depth that they needed to this team. But I really believe that bringing on Sam Williams and already a crowded defensive front room, bringing him on, I think, to me, really kind of plugged that hole from what you were looking for Randy Gregory, because this guy is 6'4", 265 pounds, runs a 4.4, is quick twitch, and he comes into an edge rusher room where the expectations is not all that high for him. All he has to do is be a hired gun. And so I believe that his production and what we potentially can get from him is one of the things that you got to look at Sam Williams and say, look, potentially you have definitely closed that gap.
Which player has more pressure on them to perform this year? And I feel like I know the answer to this question, but Sam Williams or Dante Fowler Jr.? Which one has more pressure to produce more here in 2022 specifically out of that edge rusher spot to fill that Randy Gregory role?
Sam Williams, because of where he was taken in the draft, that's going to put all the pressure on him. But I believe equally Dante Fowler. And you can even say neither. You could say neither because of the way that the rotation is going to go.
Work together as a team to fill that role.
And it went that way all season long. If you go over the Dallas Cowboys defense and the way that Dan Quinn implemented a lot of these guys, it was completely by committee. It was the only guy that literally got all the burn was our safety and Micah. That was it.
Curse and Micah.
Yeah. That's it. And so everybody else was rotating in and out. And I just feel like, again, even with Dante Fowler, and I said it when we brought him, when we signed him, that hey, it's gonna be an uphill battle for him to even make the team. Look, obviously Dan Quinn and everything that I've heard in interviews with him, he's really high up on Dante Fowler. And if Dante Fowler can produce anything for the Cowboys, that is a win-win situation. But you may potentially end up cutting some really good guys at the end of this when you get past camp.
Linebackers, still worried about it. Obviously, like the prospect that they drafted. I had opportunity to go out there and see him, see his size and all that. Damone Clark, and see exactly how how engaged he was in terms of the walkthroughs and practice, but we don't have access to him.
Right. He's not healthy.
He's not healthy. Yeah. So we drafted somebody who's a future project that we can't get our hands on now. So you're still in the same position you were in before the draft. And in terms of impact this year. So I'm still worried about that position because it takes, lo and behold, if something ever happened to Micah, you're thin. You're relying on Vander Esch, who you weren't high on. Obviously, you brought him back out of necessity, and then you got Jabril Cox, who's coming off of ACL. That's what you're relying on.
Yeah,
at the linebacker position.
Or flip it around and say Vander Esch, who had a healthy season last year, but has battled injuries much of his career.
First season he ever got beginning to end through. But I agree. But I also would like to include in that how many linebackers did they use last year?
Understood. I understand that.
A lot of time it was two linebackers in that nickel.
And I think that's maybe why they're keeping it so thin. But as we sit here right now, I think that's the biggest. If you recognize that as a whole, they damn sure recognize that as a whole, and they're going to make a move in between now and the beginning of camp to bring in a veteran linebacker.
I think they have to, because even rolling with two linebackers, we're not too deep.
Yeah.
Like real talk.
Yeah, I mean, as
you know what I'm saying? Like,
and as we're talking about OTAs getting started, Jabril Cox is a guy that I would not expect to be out there.
No.
I mean, he's going to, they think he'll be ready for week 1, but they're going to bring him along. And so Yeah, numbers-wise, that's a spot to watch as the offseason goes on. They try to upgrade or, at least add some depth.
It really reminds me of the safety position last year at this time because you were looking at the safety position. It was like, okay, you added this guy Curse. Like you have Donovan Wilson, who was coming off of a good back half of the year where he was forcing turnovers, but even he wasn't necessarily 100% healthy, nor was he really a part of the offseason program at the time. You felt really thin at safety. When you got through the draft, you're like, okay, where are we going? What's happening here? You signed Keona Neal. You got some bodies in the room, but then later, even when you got to training camp, you got on the phone and Malik Hooker was on his way to Oxnard. Yeah. And he showed up a couple days after the practices had started. I feel like you're going to see something similar here
for sure,
with the linebacker position, because I agree with you both completely. It is very, very thin. Yeah. And if you don't go and get somebody, maybe a veteran, maybe just somebody who's kind of an in-betweener, in between a contract, maybe he needs a one-year deal to prove himself, somebody like that, like a Jaron Curse potentially, comes in and plays that linebacker role, that's something interesting to think about as well.
It's very different from last year when we were talking about this position, like, where's everybody going to play? Like, how much can Jalen Smith possibly play in this group? It's just not nearly as deep as it was last year.
We're pretty right asking that question, huh?
We were right. And I don't know what week it was, but that was it for him. Middle of the season, man.
One other problem spot that I do want to hit on, and you guys wrote the article of finding competition for Tyler Biadasz at the center spot. And last year it was Tyler Biadasz, and that was it in terms of the center. You were talking about Connor Williams maybe sliding over, playing as the backup. That never came to fruition, thank goodness. Matt Farniok is maybe that backup center. They go out and they add two guys, Alec Lindstrom out of Boston College, James Impey out of BYU, both solid collegiate players, both very experienced, had plenty of production in college, but they were both undrafted guys for a reason. Do you expect there to be any competition for Tyler Biadasz? Because across the board, if Tyler Smith wins that left guard spot, I think you could maybe look at Biadasz as the weak link of the offensive line moving into the next couple of years.
I don't know. I don't know those other two gentlemen well enough to speak on them yet. But I think I'm an advocate that every position should have competition. Every single position. I don't care who's at quarterback. I don't care who's at running back, receiver, whatever. You can go all the way down the line, the whole roster. I think everybody needs somebody to push them, because the moment that you get comfortable, you become complacent. When you become complacent, you lose your drive. When you lose your drive, well, you don't win ball games. So I hope that they have a plan to have somebody pushing him at that position, even if he is the guy, which we all assume that he is the guy. Right now, they need somebody to be, hey, go ahead and snap one over his head if you want to. You know what I mean? You need that. Every player needs that. And that's the NFL. And if you lose that competitiveness, that's the thing that makes everybody who plays in this league different, because you're one play away from getting fired.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what keeps you on your toes. That's one of the things that keeps you in your doggone, in your playbook and watching film and all that jazz. Because if you slip up a couple times, there's somebody else right there willing to take your spot.
I agree.
If he doesn't have a healthy fear of being replaced, then something's wrong with him. I mean, his chair should be hot right now. There's so many people that have been talking about him from last season, him being tied to Connor Williams. No one was impressed with what Tyler Biadasz did. And I think a lot of times you felt, especially those games where he went up against those big one-techs that just kind of drove him back. And you're looking at 63 saying, hey, dog, you got to do something about that.
Like week one coming up?
Yeah, you got a lot of matchups, but that's the thing in the NFL. All of these guys each and every week are going to go against a bull at the one and guys that are shading that three. But Tyler Biadasz, for me, I just feel as though if you're Coach Philbin, you're like, look, this is your job to lose. Yeah. And if you play yourself out of this role, then it's all on you. Giving him the opportunities right now. He's over there practicing, letting him know, like, you have to be the brains of this. And I think when you're trying to replace a guy, walk in the shadows of a Travis Frederick, who was a cerebral maniac when it came down to calling the offensive, calling the protections, all of those things, how far is he progressed in his football IQ is what I'm thinking about, because he has to be that guy up front. And so, look, the added pressure is there, but also the pressure at just making sure that you have your mind wrapped around what they're doing up front. That's it.
That's like 90% of the position, right? I mean, there's the physical part, but it's that too. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I mean, I think they feel like if they've got left guard locked down with some more strength, some more power, I think he's a better player. That's the way they look at it. And I think if they had felt like they were pressed to add a bunch of competition, they would have drafted somebody or brought in somebody. And Matt Farniok, I know they've talked about him a lot. They've kind of dropped his name, like, oh, he's here all the time. He doesn't leave, but he's played one game in college at center. So there's not a lot of experience behind Tyler Biadasz.
Who cares about that?
I mean, look, and they did sign a couple guys after the draft, as you mentioned, Kyle. But Lindstrom, smaller player.
Impey is pretty small too. Yeah, they're both actually under 300 pounds.
Probably why you're not getting drafted. But that was part of the discussion after the draft when they were asked by Nick. I think you kind of passed on the best center in the draft, and maybe they looked at Linderbaum and said maybe he's not the right size to play that position in our scheme. So. Yeah, I don't know where the competition necessarily comes from for Tyler Biadasz right now. Although last year I think they were looking at Connor Williams. Now it was odd that they waited till camp to do it.
Yeah,
but I think they were kind of looking at a best 5 type thing. Like if he could handle it, they liked McGovern at left guard potentially, and maybe if he could handle that center thing, that could have been a competition in the middle of camp, and it just didn't pan out.
Kind of felt like manufactured competition all the way through instead of that natural competition of guys that played center specifically. Seeing it in hindsight, at the time you were thinking best 5, you were thinking that it was going to be something there with Connor Williams, Connor McGovern, maybe both those guys split the playing time if Tyler Biadasz were to not be the guy at center. But I don't even think then we were talking about Connor Williams being the starting center. So since Joe Looney was on the roster, Tyler Biadasz has been unchallenged to this point.
More or less. Yeah.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, who is the best cook in the kitchen in terms of this coaching staff? Who's going to max the players' position, talent, and perform the best each and every week? Whenever we come back, we answer that question with more Talkin Cowboys.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Cowboys Nation, the 9th annual Reliant Home Run Derby is back at Writers Field in Frisco, June 7th at 6:30 p.m. Come see your favorite Cowboys players swing for the fences and raise money for the Salvation Army. Free admission to all, and we will see you there. Go online, visit DallasCowboys.com/fans/reliant/2022/home-run-derby to learn more. You can replay that if you need the full link. It's all there. So It's a long one. Isaiah is already practicing.
We've got a home run derby vet over here, right?
I got to get ready.
The ballpark.
I got to start going to the cages this week.
I'll go with you.
That softball game coming up.
I'm glad you said that because there's a media section to this, right? Too.
Yep.
Huh? And you are going to be part of it.
I'm trying.
Wait a minute.
It's not official. I'm trying to get in it.
Kyle, you're in a home run derby?
I'm trying.
Let's freaking go.
It doesn't look good right now.
Hey. Here you go. I need a one shot. Listen here. Who's it? Hey, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know.
We need KY.
There it is.
No jelly. We need KY in the home run derby. He's going to hold it down for the whole Talkin Cowboys crew. If he don't get in there, we throwing stuff around.
Like the microphones in the studio. Chris Beam's going to be really upset. But
there was a tense moment in one of our department meetings a couple weeks ago where
I got challenged.
He said he wanted to play, and Nick was like,
Nick kind of scoffed at me.
Yeah, Nick was like, okay, yeah. And you I think you stood up and you're like, what? Yeah, I play. Okay.
I was a baseball player. Let's go.
I would love the opportunity to play. I've got charities thought of and everything.
Yeah.
I would love the opportunity to swing the bat. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Either way,
I'll be your substitute.
Either way, Either way, I will be hosting the event.
Nice.
So I'll be down on the field emceeing the event. So come out. It's free admission.
Yeah.
It's always a ton of fun. You get to see the players up close. Everybody's just loose and relaxed. I don't think he's going to swing. Usually we don't get votes. That's what I was told, and they're trying to finagle one.
I'm bringing you guys tickets next week for the one that I'm in.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's up.
Sounds good. But yeah, fun stuff with the Reliant Home Run Derby. Let's take some questions from Twitter, by the way. We've got some good ones. And I teased this going into the break. Our friend Ty asked, what position coach, but you can't name a coordinator. So no Dan Quinn in this conversation. What position coach is the best cook in the kitchen, meaning which position coach will max perform the talent that he has been added to the team, or that has been added to his team, to his position group? Out of the guys on the list, Rob, do you have one in mind?
How about Lunda Wells?
Yeah.
Did I steal it? It's a good one. Go ahead.
You're a thief.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You're a thief. How dare you?
Dalton Schultz, last 2 years with Lunda here, playing at a Pro Bowl level, putting up Pro Bowl caliber production and getting a 1-year bag. We'll see if he gets a multi-year bag. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a credit to coaching. And now you draft Jake Ferguson in the 4th round, and that's going to be a key component to try to add to this blocking. And I think they've got a guy in Lunda Wells who can bring that out of him.
Okay. Why do you agree?
Because, from that standpoint, Dalton Schultz is not the most physically gifted individual that we've ever seen in this league, but yet he's been productive for this particular organization. They productive enough for them to franchise him. So you look at that development with the skill set that he has, and it doesn't just show up. That's a lot of credit, obviously, to Dalton and the work that he's put in on and off the field. But there's a guy who coaches him every single day, and they don't get enough recognition. And I think that Lunda's done a heck of a job. And I've seen him since my time with the Giants.
You know him personally.
I know him personally, but the development that he's put into himself, into getting himself in shape and mentally overhauling himself and getting himself changing over from the offensive line side and over to the tight end side. He's done a heck of a job within himself in terms of coaching him. And now he's coming in, he's helping out these guys in the tight end room, and it's showing up every week. And everybody's like, oh, man, Dalton just came up and had a heck of a year. No, it doesn't just work like that. Players don't just show up and just start playing well. There's a lot of work that goes on the back end, and hats off to him.
I can't pick a coordinator, so I'm going to go with Al Harris on defense.
That's who I was going to say, too. So we got
Al Harris. Okay. And for me, I think Al Harris and his influence on these defensive backs, you see the jump that Trayvon Diggs has made and his progression, even Brown. In his second season under with Al Harris, I think it's really something to see how good coaching can change players and Lewis, guys like that. There was a little bit of a spark to that DB room and that DB group, and just as the season got rolling and the turnover started to come in, you start to see the camaraderie amongst that group, and I think we started to see that in OTAs. We see it on the field. But we see the way these guys operate out here in OTAs. And Al Harris, man, he has his pants pulled all the way up. He's got tape on.
He can still go.
Yeah.
get that man a helmet. You know, he can still get out there and do it. But I just love the tight knit group that we have with the DBs. But Al Harris is one of those coaches that I see him being a chef in the kitchen also.
And I want to say somebody might have been Trayvon said last year. I mean, there's probably some extra weight that's carried with his message because he's
been and done it at a high level.
At a high level, at a Super Bowl level. Yeah. Like that carries weight with players for sure.
Yes. And one of the images that comes to mind with that is Trayvon during training camp in 2020 when we were out here, we were socially distant, and we were watching from over the top. Every single rep, Trayvon went straight back to Al Harris. There was that conversation back and forth, and you saw the jump. I mean, Heckma mentioned it a moment ago that, Trayvon Diggs had a jump, but the whole cornerback room had a jump from last year because we went into the draft last year thinking cornerback. You didn't add anything specific, but you saw jumps from Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, the addition of Kelvin Joseph, but that was really non-existent in his rookie season, yet cornerback wasn't a top need into this draft this year. And that, to me, shows coaching is paying off. And you can't necessarily mention Al Harris without also mentioning Joe Webb Jr. and the way that he's kind of played an impact as the defensive passing game coordinator, as a secondary coach, and somebody that kind of
George Edwards
back and forth. You think about
that's another good one right there. Yeah. I mean that talk about a player that's just like constantly attached. I mean, Micah, they have a great relationship
with George Edwards.
Yes. Yeah. So
I think all three of those guys combining, and that's a big reason why Jaron Kearse was successful, was because of what Joe Webb Jr., George Edwards were able to do, and then of course Micah being what he was. So I think those are some good names.
I hope fans understand the impact that coaches have on players.
How big is it?
It's major. I mean, you take somebody. There's coaches and then there's a system, right? So the coaches have to understand the players and their gifts and talents well enough to put them in a position to be successful. But then there's also the development portion of it. So you take a player outside of his organization, like a Cordell Patterson, right? Good player, talented, return man, cool. All of a sudden he goes to a new organization with some coaches that understand how to utilize his talent and develop it and give him the confidence. All of a sudden, you have somebody believing in you and showing you some tips of the trade, and you start balling, right? Same thing with what you guys just mentioned, Trayvon. Talented, young talent. All right, future is going to be high on him. But no, let's get him with a cat that has done this at the highest level.
Yeah.
And by the way, he still could pull them doggone sweats up and get out there and put hands on somebody if he wanted to. If he wanted to line up on CD right now, he could. Right, you know what I'm saying? He could. He's that guy. He's that. Listen here. He gonna get some E Honda. He gonna pull out some vet moves on him. Okay. He gonna get hit in the chest 3 times. That uncle strength. Right. Okay. No. He might once they start running, it might be a different story. But he has the tricks and all those little crafty things that he can pass along to those guys that you just can't. No disrespect to other coaches, that you just can't get from other coaches. Now through experience and all that jazz, they're gonna have that in their bag from people that they've worked with. But when you're a player that has competed at that level and balled out and been all pro and Super Bowls and all that jazz, and then you turn around and coach, to your point, there's such a high regard for you as that player and a person that they're going to look up to.
That's what Jay Kidd's doing for the Mavs.
Absolutely.
I have to drop in my Mavs reference real quick. I mean, he's done a hell of a job.
I mean, it's the last,
and the season ain't over tonight. That's my bet.
Last day of the year.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, I just want to piggyback off of that because it's so much of that that's so true, and not only in a football sense, but in a person of business sense.
Yes.
Not being able to manage the talent that you have, and that's why the great CEOs or executives are who they are, because they know how to delegate and maximize the talent that they have. I think we came off of a season with Coach Nolan where we saw guys running all over the place, and we have to give Coach Nolan a lot of grace because of COVID and all of that, but I just see players not being used the way that they should have been. And now with Dan Quinn stepping in, you see a guy that recognizes Micah Parsons, and I don't believe it was until he chased down Justin Herbert that the light came on. He was like, wait a minute, I'm not using this right. I need to, and so it's not until you see that car get drove the way it's supposed to that you know how to manage it. And so, but I absolutely agree with the difference that coaches make.
And this provides a great segue into Alfred's question. He wants us to talk about the offensive line coaches because their ability to develop young talent is going to be on display very quickly. And we talked about the swing tackle position with Josh Ball, Matt Waletzko. Then in the interior of the offensive line with guys like Tyler Smith and Matt Farniok, guys that have been drafted or signed in each of the last 2 years are going to have to make an impact early. So how much confidence do you have, Rob, that Joe Philbin, even though he's been in the league for 17 years, he's done good things, he's also had some lows at the same time. Yeah. But then you've also got Jeff Blasco kind of tag teaming it. What is your confidence level like in the offensive coaching staff, offensive line coaching staff?
Yeah, I think it's there. I mean, I think you said it with his experience. I mean, he's been a head coach. He's worked, and I think there were some issues last year with the offensive line, no doubt. But I think you saw guys grow too over the last 2 years overall with Joe Philbin here. And Terrence Steele's the best example. I mean, the guy that's undrafted and is at a point now where they're like, we can let Lyle Collins go and he can step in and play that position. I to your point though, that might be the most important coaching job on staff, like going forward.
If an offensive coordinator, yeah.
Well,
I guess if you're not talking about
other than coordinators, like, and of course Mike, but like just Tyler Smith, can he jump in right away as a first round pick and help you immediately? Like that development, because he's young too. If there's a knock on him coming out is that he is kind of raw from a talent perspective. So that's alone might be the biggest coaching job going forward. Just kind of like Micah was last year, developing Micah's skills and finding a role for him.
Philbin has done an absolutely amazing job since walking in the building here. And you think about the amount of players that he's utilized.
Yeah, the number of lineups
the number of lineups that he's had over the past 2 seasons. This dude has, he's done a miraculous job. And
you're not on an island in this. There are people that think he's done a great job, and I think that the staff across the way thinks he's done a great job. But there's a good contingency of people that don't feel that way, that feel like he's been a letdown.
And I understand why they feel that way. You understand there's 2 aspects to the offensive lineman. Offensive linemen have to keep your quarterback upright and give him opportunity to throw the ball. And then the offensive linemen have to be doggone, Gorilla Zoes and get some guys out the doggone mud and drive them off the ball.
And not be penalized.
But that's so much of that. There's technique that's involved in both. But one particularly has a different mindset, and that's running game, right? Run blocking is different. That takes a different mindset to get underneath somebody who's 300-plus pounds, call it 290 to 330 pounds, and drive them off the ball. Technique alone is not going to get that done. You have to have a dog out there. So I don't know if they've had those dogs out there recently, which is why I think they made the pick that they made this year in the draft. Yeah. Even though he's raw and he still has some things that he needs to shore up, there's no question mark about the dog mentality. He's a dog in there, and that's what they need. They needed somebody with some attitude who's going to be out there to be able to go out there and deliver it. Now, take some of that coaching, take that technique, apply it to that doggone tenacity that you have, and move some of these guys out the doggone paint, because that's what this offensive line needs right now. They need some grit. So, Philbin, yes, I understand you got to get the running game going, but that's not all on him. Passing game is a little bit easier to coach up. Getting guys moving off the ball, a lot different.
No, you talk about the island that Isaiah's on, giving Philbin praise. There's so many people that just thought he did a horrible job, and we're calling for his job, really, in a lot of ways. But I'm on your side on this, because here's what I know about football, and if you look at any program worth its salt, you go into the offensive line room, tell me who the offensive line coach is, and I'll tell you the success you're having as a program. Because if you don't have an offensive line coach worth its salt, they don't have nothing. Yep. And you look at the pay rate of offensive line coaches, they try and overpay and keep, and we've had some great offensive line coaches here that have gotten things going, and Philbin is wanting to be in that list of it. I have to allow the grace for Philbin as well, because of the injuries that he had to deal with. Leo Collins last season coming in, and obviously, the labrum, and just the musical chairs of the offensive line, and Tyron Smith also going down. But I think developing players in the NFL has really became a thing of the past, man, because if a guy doesn't work out, it's so easy to call him a bust and then cut him and get rid of him. And then, like we just were talking about, another coach gets his hands on him and he redevelops this guy and turns him into something. And we're all looking like, well, damn, I thought it was a bust. No, he was in the wrong system and no one could develop him. The easiest thing, and Nate Newton is somebody that I love having these football conversations with, because as an offensive line, he'll tell you, man, the easiest thing to do is a run block, because most high schools have a sled, a blocking sled. It's 5 on, put 5 on and you drive it down the field. That's the easiest thing to get a 300-pound man to do is go forward. But pass blocking, that's where a lot of the troubles come in for offensive line and technique. And we saw those troubles with the clock and Dak's head last season with a lot of the injuries that he was having up front. It just changed the dynamic of the offense. We couldn't play field position and ball control anymore because teams like Vic Fangio, who had the blueprint and started coming after us.
There's a lot of air quotations for those listening right now.
Because you know what? He's going to live rent-free in my head because of his whole, how about them Broncos and the blueprint deal.
It's too bad he's not the coach for these joint practices and the preseason game coming up, man.
Just saying.
Him and Mike, that would have been fun.
We will see Tyron Smith versus Randy Gregory again, though, in those practices.
Oh, that's going to be love.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, that's going to be love. And we know who dominated those matchups. But, that's why having Tyron Smith back healthy, being able to develop the left guard, and you're right. If he can get this guy already with what he has, and he has that dog mentality, and just refine what he has already, I expect him to be a player for us.
Just for those who may not know, the Cowboys do have 2 joint practices with the LA Chargers, August 17th and 18th. Before their preseason game against the Chargers. And then they also have a joint practice in Denver against the Broncos on April 11th prior to their first preseason game against Denver. So that came out this last week. I don't think we've hit that as a storyline on this show. Jake asked, which young defensive tackle do you expect more from this year? No injuries. Let's pretend they're healthy all season long. Osa Odigizua or Neville Gallimore, Isaiah? Who you got?
Gallimore.
Why?
Because the lack thereof clogging up the middle in this defense last year, and the necessity for that role. The reason why they went out and drafted somebody. So they drafted somebody to pretty much, hey, we just talked about competition. So you didn't get it done the way in which you wanted to get it done. So here, boop, we're gonna put another guy in there to compete with you.
He was traditionally a 3 technique at Oklahoma. He played a lot of 3 technique as a rookie. Do you expect him, because he is a little bit bigger than some of those other guys that are in that 3 technique rotation, to maybe slide over and play the nose a little bit now that Brent Urban's not a part of it? Then you also you have 2 young guys in Quentin Bohanna and John Ridgway. However, Neville's by far the more veteran of those 2, and even he's still a young guy.
I honestly don't think that this team plans on having a true nose.
Okay.
I think that they stunt so much and they move around so much on the defensive line, and they want those linebackers to be able to flow and get those matchups on offensive linemen with half a body, not having to take them on head on, but getting them half a body. Well, in order to do that, you need your defensive line crossing the front of these offensive linemen and causing some confusion up there. So I don't think that this team intends to have a true one. So I think Gallimore should be confident in his role in terms of transitioning from what he did in college. But those guys have to be able to move across the front of offensive linemen and get penetration. That's the difference. The penetration aspect is where this team has struggled over the past few seasons. They need to get somebody moving up the field and messing things up in the backfield.
And that's why I take Osa Odigizua, because I think his quick twitch and his point of attack explosiveness is different from Neville Gallimore. Same beast, same animal, just different, you know. And I think Osa Odigizua just brings that quickness to it that you need when you talk about penetration. But I just want to take the whole word tradition as it relates to our defense and just ball it up and throw it away, because there's nothing traditional about what we ask these guys to do in and out of the scheme, because I think of the position flex that we like to enjoy with our players. And so Osa Odigizua is that player that I believe second year coming up for him, man, you should be excited about what he did in his first year.
The coaches are very excited about Osa. I think they feel like, he's going to be like a 10-year guy in this league, just super productive. They asked him to do a lot early in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, for a third-round pick, and I think he delivered there. I would go with Neville Gallimore just, though, because full season healthy, like into training camp, it looked like he was getting ready to take a jump, and then he gets hurt, and that's a serious injury he was dealing with too. Yeah. So I think full off season. I think the answer is both, but also Carlos Watkins is a guy too that can help some of that rotation, play a little nose, play inside, head up. So but
I love Gallimore's energy, man.
Yeah,
I love his energy.
I think both those guys have great
energy. I think they both had energy, but there was something about, for me particularly, there's something about Gallimore. He just he loves the prime time.
Yeah,
like he loves the crowd. You know what I'm saying? There's just so many guys that are like that, and I think he loves that, man. And when I saw him go down in there, I was like, God. Yeah. He was bringing so much energy to that group and impact. He was getting up in there, you know? So looking forward to seeing him back out there healthy.
What about Tristan Hill? Do you think Tristan Hill makes this team?
You got 2 young tackles that you drafted.
Yeah.
Isaiah's taking a sip of water. That's about it.
Last year of his deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is it.
There's a lot of defensive linemen.
Oh, it's crowded. It got crowded quick.
Yeah, it did.
There was a ton.
Yeah.
It's who steps up. You talk about competition, it's there.
That's the most competitive
defensive
room.
line, it's there for sure.
The most competitive room, hands down, is defensive line.
That's a good question. Is it?
Oh,
might have to be.
Not receiver.
In terms of crowded?
Not lineman, not quarterback, not running back.
Yeah.
It's D-line.
It's D-line.
Yeah. I would agree too. All right, since we brought up position flexibility, this is kind of fun. Kellen Moore, who's a friend of the show on Twitter, position flexibility is important for more down roster folks.
Is it Kellen Moore or Killen Moore?
Killen Moore.
Oh, okay. What's up, K Moore?
Not Kellen, unfortunately. So outside of the mascot position, what would Rowdy play if he was called upon on game day?
Kicker.
Why?
You see those boots? Come on, man. It's out of necessity we get him. It's out of necessity.
Yeah, perfect way to take us to break, Kyle.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you could go like down lineman, a little edge rusher action.
Yeah,
You kidding me? He's got those big old hands. You could chop and block and go around.
You want to see him in a 3-point stance?
Heck yeah, dude.
I don't know. I'll go with kicker.
Straight kicker?
I'll go with or punter, one of the two.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
there's that much flexibility for punter.
No,
that's true. I don't think he can get that leg up there.
I give him kicker.
Somebody said field goal return man because he's always back there anyways because he's sitting under the field goal post. All right, let's head the break. When we come back, we will wrap things up on another offseason edition of Talkin' Cowboys right after this.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar, and a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere, and a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Whether you're watching from home or you're cheering in the stands with Essilor lenses, you can see every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and see what Essilor can do for you. See more, do more, Essilor on Talkin' Cowboys.
We have to start recording the break. We have to start.
We
recording
cannot do that. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
Nope.
You're not going to do that to me.
Yep,
he said that, Derek. I did not. Okay.
No Tyler Biotish in this building.
I told you.
Final segment.
I'm the Tyler Biotish of the group, baby.
Final segment here of Talking Cowboys.
Snap it over his head if you
Chris
want to.
Beam, Heckma Harrison, Isaiah Stanback, Rob Phillips. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Somebody brought this question up, and it was on one of the websites. It might have been NFL.com throughout the week or something of the sort. It was just kind of a fun question. This is something we could only talk about, I think, in the offseason for time-consuming standpoints. However, by the way, this segment brought to you by blockchain.com. If you could choose one player in the NFL, the entire NFL, to build your team around,
I was so confused on this question.
Who would it be? One player in the entire NFL. No constraints, or you could even think of it
at this point in their career.
Yeah, at this point in their career.
Does salary matter?
No.
Contract doesn't matter.
Contract out the window.
It's just a fantasy draft.
Just straight up fantasy. Who's your first pick? And
do we really want to ask this question?
Yeah.
It sounds like a setup, don't it? It sounds like a gotcha question.
No, it's not a setup. It's just a fun question.
Go ahead, P.
Okay, if you would have said Dak Prescott, nobody would agree with you to a certain extent. I love Dak Prescott as much as anybody else, but he's not number one on that list right now.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go. Pat Mahomes, and I think there's some. And that's not a knock on Dak Prescott.
Exactly.
I'm a Dak Prescott guy. I think everybody knows that. I think there's some recency bias sometimes in sports in the NFL. He didn't make the Super Bowl. Now Tyreek Hill leaves, and it's kind of like, are people catching up to him? I still think over the next 10 years, he's going to be competing to go to the Super Bowl every single year. And part of it is because they have an organization that does and a coach does a good job of surrounding him with talent. But I think he's the best young player in the league. To me, it's hard to argue that. Although I think that Bills Chief game, not only was it one of the best 5 games of this century that we've watched, I think Josh Allen maybe this is recency bias, but I think he showed he's another guy that can reach that level too. And by the way, I think Dak can reach a Super Bowl too.
Sure.
But if I'm having to pick one guy, Mahomes, based on what he's done so far,
Those are 3 names that I've thrown around: Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then you could maybe think defensive side of the football too. But the quarterback position is just so valuable at this point.
I'm torn between 2 names.
Okay,
Justin Herbert, Josh Allen.
Not Pat.
Why those 2? I like Justin Herbert too, by the way.
I like their dog. They have that dog mentality. They work hard. That's not to say that any of these other premier quarterbacks don't. There's just something in those guys that I feel like is just a fighter's mentality. And I think that they're both so early on in their careers that they've been successful to this point, and I think their organizations currently are building around them. Especially Herbert. Jesus, they just helped him out defensively. But I like both of those quarterbacks.
Man, y'all so disrespectful. I'll disrespect.
Is this Tostitos Championship Plaza again?
I'm always Tostitos Plaza. Come on, guys. You gonna say this in the Star on this day?
Yeah, definitely.
With this question,
that's a setup.
There's a second question on the back end too that we will ask: which Cowboys should be at the top of that list? But
no, come on now. You asked me an honest question. I'm going to give you an honest answer. Aaron Rodgers. Come on, dog. This is a guy that's had an amazing career. Only 2 years in, I believe, 17, going into 17 seasons where he's had double-digit interceptions. There's nobody's played the quarterback position like this man. He fits the ball into places that I've never seen. He made a throw at AT&T in a playoff game. I never seen anybody make a throw like that, man. He does things on the field that is I don't know if we'll ever see a guy that has that kind of placement and touch on his ball the way that Aaron Rodgers does. He is that dude.
Yeah, the only thing knocking, I guess, his stock in this conversation would be the age, but he still hasn't necessarily shown a inkling of slowdown. He's a back-to-back MVP award winner for a reason. Yep. So I definitely could see that. I think I would choose one of the 3 quarterbacks that you guys kind of mentioned between Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert. I think I lean Mahomes just because of what he can do from a standpoint of freelancing and kind of making plays on the run. Josh Allen can do something very similar, but I think Mahomes has a better arm for doing that while also moving.
And as much as he's already done, he's like 25.
Yeah, he's not that old,
which is crazy.
Experience, youth, and talent all put together, that's hard to find. Wow. And those three guys all have it, but I think Mahomes is just still a half a step up on Allen, and then I think Allen's a full step up on Herbert. That's how I would rank it back and forth. But as I promised, which Dallas Cowboy would be highest on that list? Doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be on the offensive side of the football. If anything, we could split it, offense and defense, if we want. Which player for the Cowboys would be highest on that list altogether?
Me to go?
We might as well let him go first.
Well, I mean, come on.
I know where you're going with it.
Dak all day,
Oh,
four
I'm
all day.
surprised. I'm surprised.
4 all day. And if we're going to go on the other side of the ball, it's going to be who getting on the bus with Micah.
Micah, baby.
Right. I mean, that's just it. But I think, look, I even thought that last segment, I just feel I need a shower right now because I didn't say Dak and I said Aaron Rodgers because of the numbers. I mean, you look at the other players that you're talking about. Herbert, he's only done it for, 2 years in the league and look, had all the yards in the world, but still bounced out of the play. I mean, come on. I mean, the same thing that you knock Dak for, you don't knock these other guys for, and I just feel like that's people are contradicting themselves right there. But I think that Dak, as far as the numbers, as far as the PFF, when you want to use it to make your point, QBR, yards, touchdowns, double digits, interceptions, I believe 3 years so far in his career. This guy is on a trajectory that's going this way. And so, I just feel like Dak is the obvious answer.
I'm going Rain Dakota too.
Okay.
Most important position. And I think, as I said earlier, I don't think he's far off from being where he needs to go. I really don't. A lot of it has to do with who's around him. Some of it's just being around him, and a lot of it's what you hear from people about him. Like, he's the type of guy, type of person, type of leader. I don't see him not succeeding at the highest level at some point in his career. People don't buy it right now. There's a lot of people skeptical right now.
Yeah.
I just think he's only 28. Whatever. There's time. There's time for him, and I think he's going to get to that level.
I'm going with the bazooka. And I know that's weird because he's a defensive player, but I like his approach. I like his mentality. I like the fact that he doesn't rely on somebody else to go out there and have an impact on the game. He literally says, it's on me. And I like that about him as a player. I like that about any player who has that mindset because it's easy to surround those individuals with people who just want to just feel that some of that energy and who just want to be a part of that. How many people did we see on the defensive side of the ball this past year just want to be a part of that? I don't want just Micah out there making plays by himself. Shoot, let me get in on this. Right? I ain't made plays since birth, but guess what? I'm going to go out there and do it now because he's out there doing it. Mm-hmm. You want that, and I think that's somebody that you want to build around, and obviously I think that they're starting to do so.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a complete overhaul of the defensive side of the football. It started with one guy. That was number 11 on that side. Now, if Dak Prescott, prior to the injury, you mentioned trajectory, Heckma, the trajectory, the confidence, the leadership abilities, all those things were there prior to the injury. You could argue the trajectory's kind of been a stagnant since then. Mm-hmm. Do you think prior to that he would be on that initial list of guys up in that conversation with the Allens and the Mahomes and stuff like that?
I think everybody is putting two on the team. With Josh Allen, I think his decision-making needs to be called into play as well. He didn't do all the great things, and it's because he's way up in Buffalo that he doesn't get the scrutiny in the market because he doesn't do a good job with the ball. He had now thrown Dak on touchdowns and interceptions as well. I mean, look, Dak right now, if you take away the New York and his foot turned the other way, okay, and he's sitting there trying to figure out what is his career going to be like after that. He came back and he balled. We were looking at pictures of him walking in Luke Casey's, and his freaking ankle was the size of a grapefruit, but he went out there and balled. And I'll take the one play, and that's the one against New England, the walk-off touchdown, the CeeDee Lamb. Mm-hmm. To me, that was the foreshadow for Dak of the whole 2021 season because that was his highest high and his lowest low because he got injured on the same freaking play, and it took the whole offense with him after that, right?
He was firmly in the MVP conversation at that moment.
Yes,
think about
that moment.
Think about that one play and what that meant, because if you walk off from that situation healthy and you go through the bye or beat Minnesota and go into the bye, dog, you are cooking with house. You got house money right now, right? And so everybody's looking at Dak and the way that he finished the season, and without giving any credence to what we talked about with Philbin, the offensive line, the penalties, the kicking game, all of that, and putting it on Dak and saying, oh, man, he's not in that Josh Allen. Well, you ain't watching Josh Allen then. But nobody said Joe Burrow. And, I would think as far as the other guys, I mean, this is the guy you want to start talking about before you even get to a Herbert or a Josh Allen, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I said recency bias with Josh Allen, because I think the last image was like, oh, man, he took the Chiefs to the brink. He's maybe the
Miami
next guy.
And then Joe Burrow beat the Chiefs.
I got you. Yeah. Who's your pick? Who you got?
Oh, I picked Mahomes. Oh,
no, for
out
the Cowboys.
Of the Cowboys?
Yeah,
Dak. I would still pick Dak. Quarterback. Second on that list would be Micah. Mm-hmm. So I'm right there with you guys in terms of the reasoning altogether. But I think Dak is still the guy here. If you had to pick one guy, one jersey that's going to be the biggest impact man on how this organization will either succeed or how it would fail, it is firmly on the shoulders of Dak Prescott.
Right now.
That's exactly the point. So I think he's in that conversation. He would be the guy I would want to build around, because that's exactly who you have built around, and that's where you got to get to.
Some of it too for me is I got to spend like 45 minutes with him for something else we're doing last week while I wasn't on the show.
Sure,
and it's just hard to just being around him, the type of guy he is, the type of leader he is. It's hard not to think like
it's infectious.
There's something big he's going to do at some point. That's just how I feel about it, but it's hard not to put Micah there, because Micah just had a season that really we almost haven't seen in the NFL for a rookie defensive player. And it's like, how good can this guy be? So, I don't know. You flip a coin, I guess.
There's a lot of pressure on Micah to perform at a higher level this year, too.
Absolutely.
I think he's got to take a next step that you would anticipate.
He has more pressure on him, I think, than anybody on his team.
That's a conversation we might have in a future episode, because that's a pretty interesting statement. But that's going to do it for us. We are out of time here on a Talkin Cowboys Tuesday. Once again, OTA is going on all week long. We will break it down for you. We'll get a chance to watch some practices between now and next Tuesday. For Chris Beam, Rob Phillips, Isaiah Stanback, Heckma Harrison, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!